Welcome to our comprehensive guide on narration, a crucial topic for SSC CHSL and CGL exam. Narration is the act of reporting or describing what someone has said, and it forms the backbone of many English grammar questions. In this chapter, we'll explore the two main ways of reporting speech, direct and indirect. Understanding the difference between these two is essential for mastering narration. Direct speech involves quoting the exact words of the speaker, while indirect. Start with direct speech. In direct speech, we use the exact words spoken by a person, usually enclosed in quotation marks. For example, if someone said, "I'm very tired," we write, "He said, I'm very tired." This method is straightforward and captures the speaker's original words without any modification. Direct speech is commonly used in storytelling, dialogue, and when we want to emphasize the speaker's exact words. It's important to note the use of punctuation, such as comma. Now, let's move on to indirect speech. Indirect speech, also known as reported speech, involves conveying the meaning of what someone said without quoting their exact words. For example, the direct speech "he said, I'm very tired" becomes "he said that he was very tired" in indirect speech. Notice how the quotation marks are removed and the tense of the verb changes. Indirect speech is useful when summarizing conversation or reporting information. It requires careful attention to changes in tense. It's important to understand the key differences between direct and indirect speech. Direct speech uses the speaker's exact words and is marked by quotation marks, while indirect speech reports the meaning and often involves changes in tense, pronoun, and word order. For example, "She said, I'm happy" in direct speech becomes "she said that she was happy" in indirect speech. Mastering these differences is the first step towards confidently handling narration questions in your exam. First major rule in converting direct speech to indirect speech is the change of tenses. When the reporting verb is in the past tense, the tense of the verb inside the quotation marks usually shift back one step in time. For example, present simple becomes past simple, present continuous becomes past continuous, and so on. This rule ensures that the reported speech accurately reflects the time frame of the original statement. Let's look at a few examples to clarify this rule. It is a helpful table summarizing how tenses change from direct to indirect speech. Present simple changes to past simple, present continuous to past continuous, and present perfect to past perfect. Similarly, modal verbs like will and shall change to would and should, or can and may become could and might. Understanding this table will make it easier to convert sentences quickly and accurately during your exam. See an example of tense change in action. The direct speech sentence "he said, I'm happy" becomes "he said that he was happy" in indirect speech. Notice how "am" changes to "was." This shift is essential for maintaining the correct sequence of tenses and ensuring your reported speech is grammatically accurate. Second rule involves changing pronouns when converting direct speech to indirect speech. First person pronouns I, we, my, our, me are changed according to the subject of the reporting verb. Second person pronouns you, your change according to the object of the reporting verb. Third person pronouns he, she, it, they, him, her, them usually remain unchanged. This rule ensures that the reported sentence makes sense in its new context. Let's look at some examples of pronoun changes. For instance, "He said, I like your dress" becomes "she said that she liked my dress." Here, I changes to she and your changes to my. Another example, "They said, we will help them" becomes "they said that they would help them." Notice how it changes to they. Practicing these changes will help you avoid common mistakes. Third rule is about changing words that indicate time and place. When converting direct speech to indirect speech, words like now, today, tomorrow, and here need to be replaced with their corresponding indirect form. For example, now becomes then, today becomes that day, and here becomes there. This adjustment is necessary to maintain the logical flow of the reported sentence. Here's a quick reference table for changing time and place words. Tonight becomes that night, yesterday becomes the previous day, and tomorrow becomes the next day. Similarly, this changes to that, and these changes to those. Keeping this table in mind will help you make accurate conversion during your practice and exam. Let's see how time words change in practice. The direct speech sentence "he said, I will visit you tomorrow" becomes "he said that he would visit me the next day." Here, tomorrow is replaced with the next day and will changes to would. These changes are essential for accurate reporting. Now, let's look at a place change example. The direct speech sentence "she said, I'm working here now" becomes "she said that she was working there then." Here changes to there and now changes to then. These subtle changes help maintain the context of the original statement. Fourth rule involves changing the reporting verb and converting direct speech to indirect speech. Common reporting verbs like say, tell, and ask may change depending on the context. For example, say to becomes tell and request becomes requested or asked. This rule helps clarify the intention behind the reported speech, whether it's a statement, request, or command. Here's a table summarizing common changes in reporting verbs. Say to becomes tell, said to becomes told, and exclaim becomes exclaimed. For requests and orders, use requested, asked, ordered, or commanded. Understanding these changes will help you accurately convey the speaker's intent in indirect speech. Let's see an example. The direct speech sentence "he said to me, be quiet" becomes "he ordered me to be quiet" in indirect speech. Here, said to changes to ordered, and the verb be is used in its infinitive form. This change makes the sentence more formal and clear. Another example involves request. The direct speech "he said, please help me" becomes "she requested me to help her." Here, said changes to requested, and the verb help is used in its infinitive form. This structure is commonly used for polite requests in indirect speech. Now, let's discuss some special rules for converting direct speech to indirect speech. These rules apply to interrogative question sentences, imperative sentences, and exclamatory sentences. For question, we use if or whether or the appropriate WH word. For commands and requests, the verb changes to its infinitive form, and the reporting verb may change to order, request, or advise. Exclamatory sentences often use expressions like exclaimed with joy. Interrogative sentences remove the comma and question mark and use if or whether for yes/no question or the appropriate WH word for other question. The reporting verb may change to ask or inquire. For example, he said, "Are you coming to the party?" becomes "he asked if I was coming to the party." This structure helps maintain clarity in reported question. Let's see an example of a yes/no question. The direct speech "he said, "Are you coming to the party?" becomes "he asked if I was coming to the party." Notice how the question is turned into a statement and if is used to introduce the reported clause. Questions starting with WH words use the same word in indirect speech. For example, she asked, "Where do you live?" becomes "she inquired where I lived." The reporting verb changes to inquired and the sentence structure is adjusted to fit indirect speech. Imperative sentences, which give commands or requests, require special handling. The verb is changed to its infinitive form and the reporting verb may become order, request, or advise. For example, she said, "Don't talk in the class," becomes "she ordered us not to talk in the class." This structure clearly conveys the command in indirect speech. Exclamatory sentences express strong emotion and are reported using expressions like exclaimed with joy or thanked. For example, they said, "Hurrah, we won the match," becomes they exclaimed with joy that they had won the match. Avoid using that in exclamatory and imperative sentences to keep the reporting natural. Words like goodbye and thank you are reported as expressions. For instance, she said, "Goodbye, everyone," becomes "she said goodbye to everyone." Similarly, thank you is reported as thanked. These changes help maintain the tone and intent of the original statement. Key point to remember is to avoid using that in exclamatory and imperative sentences when converting to indirect speech. This keeps the reported sentence natural and clear. For example, "Hurrah, we won the match," becomes they exclaimed with joy they had won the match without inserting that. There are some important exceptions to the rules of tense change in indirect speech. In certain cases, the tense of the direct speech remains unchanged. These include universal truth, facts, proverbs, historical events, and when the reporting verb is in the present, future, or present perfect tense. Let's explore these exceptions in detail. When the direct speech states a universal truth, fact, or proverb, the tense does not change in indirect speech. For example, she said, "The sun rises in the east," becomes "she said that the sun rises in the east." This exception helps preserve the factual accuracy of the statement. Similarly, when reporting historical events, the tense remains unchanged. For example, he said, "Mahatma Gandhi was a great leader," becomes "he said that Mahatma Gandhi was a great leader." This ensures that the historical context is accurately maintained in the reported speech. If the reporting verb is in the present, future, or present perfect tense, the tense of the direct speech does not change in indirect speech. For example, she said, "I'm going to the market," becomes "she said that she is going to the market." This exception is important for sentences that describe ongoing or future action. Certain modal verbs like must, had better, used to, ought to, and would rather do not change their tense in indirect speech. For example, he said, I must finish this work by today becomes he said that he must finish that work by today. This rule helps maintain the necessity or obligation expressed in the original statement. Quickly summarize the key rule for converting direct speech to indirect speech. Change the tense if the reporting verb is in the past. Adjust pronouns and time/place words. Modify the reporting verb as needed, and remember the special rules for question, command, and exclamation. Also, keep in mind the exceptions for universal truth, historical events, and certain modal verbs. Let's practice converting direct speech to indirect speech with tense changes. Try changing he said, I'm studying to indirect speech. The correct answer is he said that he was studying. Practicing these conversions will help you become more comfortable with the rule. Now let's practice pronoun changes. Convert she said, you are my friend to indirect speech. The answer is she said that was her friend. Notice how you changes to I and my changes to her. Let's try a time/place change. Convert he said, I will call you tomorrow to indirect speech. The answer is he said that he would call me the next day. Remember to change tomorrow to the next day and will to would. Try converting he said to me, please open the door to indirect speech. The answer is he requested me to open the door. Here, said to changes to requested, and the verb open is in its infinitive form. Convert she said, are you ready to indirect speech? The answer is she asked if I was ready. Notice the use of if and the change in sentence structure. Try converting they said, wow, what a beautiful view, to indirect speech. The answer is they exclaimed with admiration that it was a beautiful view. This structure captures the emotion of the original statement. Convert he said, water boils at 100 degrees to indirect speech. The answer is he said that water boils at 100 degrees. Since this is a universal truth, the tense does not change. Convert she said, I must go now to indirect speech. The answer is she said that she must go then. The modal verb must remains unchanged and now changes to then. Careful to avoid common mistakes when converting direct speech to indirect speech. These include forgetting to change the tense, pronoun, or time/place words and incorrectly using that in exclamatory or imperative sentences. Reviewing these rules regularly will help you avoid errors and improve your accuracy. To excel in narration questions on your SSC exam, practice regularly, memorize the key rules and exceptions, and pay attention to the context of each sentence. Use tables and charts to help remember tense changes and pronoun adjustments. With consistent practice, you'll be able to tackle any narration question with confidence. Let's quickly recap what we've learned. Direct speech uses exact words. Indirect speech reports meaning with changes in tense, pronoun, and time/place words. Special rules apply to questions, commands, and exclamation, and there are important exceptions for universal truth and modal verbs. Keep practicing to master these concepts. Direct speech is a way of reporting the exact words spoken by a person, enclosed in quotation marks. It is commonly used in dialogues and storytelling to capture the speaker's original words. Understanding direct speech is essential for converting sentences accurately in narration exercises. Direct speech, also known as reported speech, involves paraphrasing what someone has said without quoting their exact words. It requires changes in tense, pronouns, and sometimes word order. Mastering indirect speech is crucial for clear and accurate reporting in both written and spoken English. Congratulations on completing this full chapter on narration for SSC CHSL and CGL. By understanding the rules and practicing regularly, you'll be well prepared to tackle any direct or indirect speech question in your exam. Remember to review the table, practice with example, and keep these key concepts in mind. Good luck with your study and